Good evening, everyone. I would like to thank the organizers for inviting us. My name is again Sami Mashney. I was born in Ramallah on July 4th. But that's not a day of independence over there. My first awareness of Israel and the Israelis and the Jewish people and the Zionists came in 1967. This was the Six-Day War. I was then 11 years old. And we were hearing that there's war happening, the Israelis are coming, etc. And at that point, my mother is a Jehovah's Witness, so she used to have those books that have pictorials, what happened 2,000 years ago, and the Roman soldiers, they have these mohawk helmets and all this, you know. And I thought when they say Israelis and the Jews, I imagined them to be like that. They'd be coming with mohawks, with leather skirts and horses and etc. Then when they showed up, I saw tanks and jeeps and they looked like people like us. So it was an anticlimactic moment for me at that point. I was only 11. About a week later, my father, who used to publish a newspaper in Cuba, Havana, he left before Castro came to power. He brought with him from Cuba all the issues from his newspaper, which was one page Arabic, one page Spanish. And so a week later he tells me, come with me. I'm one of 6 children, the 4th. And I don't know why he chose me. So I went with him to one of our terraces just below our house in Ramallah. And he started to dig a big hole, a giant hole. And so why are you doing this, Dad? I said, well, I'm afraid the Israelis will come and see the newspaper, what I used to write when I was in Cuba before 1948. I'm afraid things are going to happen to me. So we used to have at home in the garage the stamp for the title of the newspaper. This is before desktop publishing. It's like a metal template. You dip it in ink, then you put it on the paper, and that's how it registers, the title of the newspaper. So, and I used to love that thing. I used to take it, put ink, and stamp it all over everything I saw in our garage. So that day, he dug a big hole. He put all those newspapers on that stamp. He covered it with dirt. And later on, I reflected that I thought my father that day, what he did is like he felt he was burying one of his own children. Because I don't know if you guys know what publishing means to publishers. It's just like labor of love. So this is how I got introduced to Israel. Then about 2 weeks later, there was an Israeli jeep. They were going so fast, the jeep fell in one of the terraces, and then the soldiers, they left the jeep and they started coming close to our home. We were all in fear. Luckily, they just turned back and nothing happened. And then I grew up and I started to realize this thing, conflict, religion is at least one of its apparent sources. And this was one of the reasons why I rejected religion as I grew up. Incidentally, it says in the flyer, Muslim voice. I wasn't born Muslim. My father is Catholic, Roman Catholic. My mom is Greek Orthodox. And I refuse to let religion define me. Religion is an inherited trait. And I think intelligent and well-meaning people should define themselves irrespective of their accidental birth, whether they are Jewish, Christian, Muslim, etc. We're all human, we're all one earth. All these differences between us are artificial, they're pathological. I don't think they are healthy. And all people of goodwill should not allow religion to be a divisive force in their life. If they do that, then in my view, they're following devil worship as opposed to following religion. This is where I'm coming from. Now, okay, let's speed up to what's happening today. Obviously, some people say Israel, Palestine, history, and etc. But I think if you get so much overlap with history, you lose sight of what's happening today. What's happening today is that there's one state, there's one government, which is the government of Israel. But there are two people. The Israelis have rights, the Palestinians don't have rights. It's just like, here in the United States, for example, they say whites have rights, blacks don't have rights. That's basically what's happening over there. I mean, of course, not every situation is the same, but that's the essence of what's happening. So I am one of those people who propose and see that it's historically inevitable that the solution, and the solution is a bad word, by the way, because we keep hearing solution for the last 60 years, but there's no solution. So it's more like morphine, opium you keep giving to the people, to the media, to the public. Oh, solution, oh great, solution, but it never happens. It's a treadmill of empty expectations and promises. So I suggest that this word should be banned. When the solution actually happens, they should start using it at that point, because it will be truthful, not euphemistic as it is right now. Whatever happened in South Africa is what's going to happen in Palestine. I know that a lot of people, oh, this never happened, the Israelis, they will not accept that, the Zionists will not accept that, but it's not up to them. There is an international movement that's building, the Solidarity movement, that's slowly and surely growing, snowballing, and putting pressure, political, economic, global, on Israel. And I'm not saying Israel is a bad word. There are many Israelis that I feel affinity towards them, closer than I feel affinity to an average WASP here in the United States, because I am Semitic, they are Semitic, we're close, our DNA is close, our culture is close. So just because this person happens to be Jewish, I happen to be born Catholic, does not necessarily mean that this person has to be my enemy, my adversary. I deal with this person based on the content of his character, just like Dr. Martin Luther King said, as opposed to what's his religion, what's his nationality. So I look beyond the labels, I try to see the humanity of people. There will be one government at some point, a secular government, democratic state. There is a democracy right now, but it's schizophrenic. The democracy is designed to serve the Jews only, but those who are not Jewish, democracy systematically excludes them. Of course, there are token, the Arabs who are in stayed there in 1948, they have some rights, but their rights are not equal to the rights of the Israelis, the Jewish Israelis. There are four classes of people right now in Israel. There's the Ashkenazi Jews, the European Jews, and there's the Sephardim Jews, who are the Eastern Jews, like from Yemen, Iraq, etc. They look like me. And then there are the Arab Israelis, the Arabs who stayed in Israel in 1948 for one reason or another. They stayed, did not leave or driven out. And then there are the poor people like us, who are the Palestinians, who are not Israeli citizens, and they basically have no rights. They cannot assemble, they cannot address government, etc., etc., etc. And this is why crazy groups like Hamas, like etc., they sprout out of the same reasons the Jews in Warsaw Ghetto rebelled. That's what the Hamas people in Gaza are doing. When you put people in a cage and you keep putting pressure on them more and more and more, they become radical, they become crazy, and they will do things that are not what normal people living in prosperity do. So how much time I have left?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. So, and I know that there are, conceptions, perceived in people's mind, and the Arabs are terrorists, the Israelis are bad, etc. But, this is kind of childish in my opinion, because we all know that people are products of circumstances. If you take any person here, and if you were, as a child, were put in a totally different environment, totally different culture, you would have grown to be imprinted with that culture. Your political views, your religion, your mannerism, etc. will be different. So we have to really recognize our humanity, our commonality as people on this planet that's getting more and more polluted. There's more warfare going on, there's more Occupy movement happening in the world. So we need to kind of think bigger and better than just being pitiful and looking at just right what's in front of our eyes, not being mindful of the global, thing that we live in, and act like sisters and brothers to each other. And I will just stop right there and thank you very much.